Okay.
So, boom.
What a bad man.
Windrush to us.
No, don't.
Luckily, Where is that right now? What's the where are we right now?
So at the moment, the Defence Secretary said on behalf of Theresa May that
You can't just say, and we can't just talk about the end bit without talking about it a little bit.
That's true.
Prior.
No, but I just want to know right now, at this minute of today,
what's going on.
Where are we?
So the Home Secretary has fully condemned it. They made 3 separate apologies for it, and they're saying that the Home Office is going to handle each and every case on its own within 2 weeks. So your situation is going to be resolved within 2 weeks.
What, the situation of you not being
so there's various
anymore?
things. So some people having to prove their documentation. One guy, his mum's suffering from an illness. He's had to leave the country. All that stuff apparently is due to be sorted in 2 weeks.
You know, this is all very reminiscent of
it's wild.
Before I started this podcast, I did I'm gonna get to a point here. Yeah? I was doing a radio show on my SoundCloud, and I was doing a section called Phone Check, where I was just kind of ringing artists and just finding out what they was up to. And then, cut a very long story short, I ended up doing Wiley, which ended up being a very long conversation. So I just threw the audio out there because it was just too long. And then I thought, you know what, I need to do more of them. And the second one I actually did was Castastic, when he got removed from this country. Yeah, and I think, to be honest with you, it was one of the best interviews I, to this day, have done. Yeah, and it was very, I just felt very sad about it, because he'd been here literally since he was 3 years old. Oh. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he's being told he's being deported. Yeah, and so he was really going for it. But there was a lot of things that he said in that interview that was reminiscent of what's going on right now. Do you get me? Because, he was talking about some document that they were asking him to prove or to have or something like that, and he wasn't able to do it. So they just deported him back to Jamaica. And bearing in mind, he'd never been back since he was 3. He didn't know anyone out there. He didn't have family that he could go to. He didn't he's almost in a, a foreign place that's still attached to your heart, because that's where he's from. He's born there. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of, as a Jamaican, I've been to Jamaica a bunch of different times, but I was born here, and Jamaica is a place that I'm very much connected to. But if I was just flung there, it's a whole different thing that's going on.
Start your life again.
Exactly. Do you know what I mean? But so I was thinking, when all of this was going on, I was thinking, I wonder if his situation is tied into this, but just from a different sort of angle, because they were actually asking how much people have been deported by error. And I don't even know if it was just on that topic on, Windrush. I think it was just, how much people have you deported back to the Caribbean for this same thing here? They had a legislation that they changed in 2014 without even telling anyone, that protected people that had come here, or the Windrush kids and stuff like that were here, that protected them from being sent back. But nobody was told about this. They just changed this in 2014 and never said nothing to nobody.
Changed it to stop them being protected.
Yeah. So now they had to ask you where your documents are and stuff, and if you can't prove them, then you have to go back to where you come from.
So the Windrush children are like a group of people from the Caribbean that were brought over invited to the country.
Yeah. So it's interesting, when we did the remember when we did the workshop with the kids? I'm not sure if you noticed, but that was what I talked about with them very briefly, because I was saying to them, and I was trying to do it without boring them, but I was saying at a certain period in the 1950s, there was the Windrush generation that came here, and a lot of them came to certain places, for example, Ladbroke Grove, Brixton, whatever, and they came here more so on, they were promised work, because it was the post Second World War, so they were here to do labouring work and also do things like drive buses and trains and stuff like that, because they just never had the numbers here to have people do that. So they had people come from the Caribbean islands to come here and do that, but they were also promised citizenship and all kinds of stuff. Do you know what I mean? But then they've taken away this legislation in 2014, where boom, now that's all. It's almost like they're saying, you know what, Julie, come to my house and do some work. You can come and stay in my house Do you know what I mean? We'll look after you. We'll look after your family and everything. So you come, you paint up my house, you strip the walls, you lay the carpet down, you do everything, build up my yard. My yard's crisp now, and we're all living together. Next minute, I just change up the rules now. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, the yard's crisp now. Like, where's? Show me the text that I said that you could come to my yard. Show me the text. Show me the text. Oh, you can't show me the text. Gone. That's exactly what it's like. And it's like, now it's not even you're saying it to the people that like particularly came here initially to build. You're saying it to the kids who are like 2-3 years old, that all they've known is this country, paid bare taxes, done all types of stuff for the country, and then now you're telling them to bounce.
It obviously doesn't matter, but why? What happened that they're like,
I think it's to protect immigration, isn't it? It's protect immigration, because it's like, immigration has been a big thing over the last however many years now. Like that's dominated all of the elections and everything.
And so they look at these people as immigrants.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. No, they're looking at as potential immigrants.
And this is not the people that came over in 1950s. This is their children's children.
Yeah.
No, but including people, they've detained a woman that was 67 years old. So it's not just a younger generation. There was a woman who was in jail at the age of 67, and there are people that are 57, 60 that are being questioned. And specifically, they're being asked to provide 4 pieces of ID for each year they've been in the country.
That's not mad thing.
People are saying, how can I have documents from 1970? What
are these documents?
Yeah, like landing. Oh, we'll get onto the landing cards, but they're asked to, their boarding or the rent that they were paying or their council tax or the jobs
rent they're paying.
Yeah,
7 years
yeah.
ago.
So they're being asked to show 4 different documentations for each year.
For each year they've been here.
One woman provided.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Have you ever moved yard before?
Yeah.
Have you do you know how much things you just lose off? You might find when you're moving house.
Yeah.
Like
everything in life is a contradiction. Everything. They want you to keep everything, but they don't want you to have loads of stuff in your house.
Yeah.
So then they charge you to have storage units to keep things there, but then you got to pay insurance for the storage unit. But it's like everything is do this, but then if you do it, this is this. But then don't do that because everything is like a contradiction.
And of course,
and all you're doing is trying to like de-contradict yourself into a box that's okay for now.
Yeah.
Until they turn around and say, actually, anyone who's, do you know what I mean? If you're in media, if your job's in media, we don't actually need media right now. So them jobs are over one day. They might just say because it doesn't work for them. Everything's like that, bro. I don't know. In my whole life, I've spent it trying to like I just want to do what I want to do and just stay away from anyone or anything to do with the world and politics because it's just a big world of mess here. Yeah. But you can't. It's impossible, bruv. People have been living here for, 40, 50 years. 40, 50 years, bruv. You just live in your normal life and then one day they just drag it up like, oh yeah, we don't want
But not just living your normal life, paying taxes, paying a council tax, buying property, paying into the system and helping build the economy that is now telling you're not British enough.
You're not allowed to be here.
I'm hearing stories of people like on LBC talking about how like their family member like left on a holiday or to go see some family in Jamaica or wherever and weren't allowed to come back. Yeah. Imagine that.
And conveniently a couple of years ago, the Home Office destroyed all the landing cards of the generation of Windrush children because it could create a data breach in the future. So the landing card is basically you've landed into the UK. This is proof that you've just landed into the UK. Back in the day, they actually had landing cards. They all got destroyed for some reason.
That's mad.
And that's been confirmed. That's been confirmed by. It's not like a conspiracy thing. That's been.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting? I was having a conversation with a cab driver in Zimbabwe, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I take my kids back to Zimbabwe at least once a year." I was like, "Oh, that's nice, holiday." And he goes, "Yeah, holiday, but also." So they become accustomed to the way of life there, and I've got land there, and I've got a few apartments there, and I hold on to that. He goes, just in case. And I was like, just in case what? And he goes, just in case it's our turn. And this was before the Windrush thing. He goes, just in case it's our turn, and all of a sudden we're not welcome here. He goes, I want to know that my family are
They've got
good
somewhere to be.
over there. So he takes them once a year, not just out of holiday, but out of necessity. That let's keep in touch with Zimbabwe. Let's keep in touch with what's going on. Yeah, awful.
It's sad, man.
That
But
is
hopefully it
very
gets
sad.
resolved, and it's unfortunate. It seems like they're trying to resolve it now somehow, but it's like now you've put people through all of this stress and anxiety and all kinds of stuff, and even like, you know, I heard listening to I love James O'Brien, by the way. I'd love to have James O'Brien on this
On the
podcast, by the
podcast,
way.
that'd be amazing.
But yeah, he was talking with somebody this guy who he was scared to leave actually because he was going through all of this whole thing. But his mum was in Jamaica and she was dying.
Yeah.
And he was scared to leave because if he left, he felt like he would not be able to come back. And then there's like a certain amount of money that you have to pay for something. There was this $2,000 thing that you have to pay for. I need to find out a little bit more about that. But he didn't have the funds to do that. And then his mum died and he just weren't able to see his mum. And it's like, even if this thing gets sorted out, that's a man who was always
damage,
that's a man who would always be deprived from being able to see his
mum
dying
before she
mum
passed away.
in a situation like because of this situation. It's nuts.
I just feel like it's a bottomless pit, man.
Yeah.
This world is a bottomless pit of just things that are unfair and horrible, man. And you just have to really hope that you're not the person that is unfortunate in that situation, because he's going to remember that for the rest of his life. He's going to always remember that. That's part of him now.
Yeah.
For what reason? Like, brother's crazy. I'm telling you. Is mad.
My silver lining in the situation, because obviously there's always going to be martyrs and irreparable damage done. One person's reportedly died, and they linked it because he was going through this sort of thing, and then he was found dead. But one of the things is that I like in this country that there was an uproar, and straight away, 24 hours after announcing what was happening, was that, all right, fine, sorry, we're sorry, we're sorry, that won't happen now, we're not deporting you anymore. So
I think that goes back to my point of what I said earlier about there being strength in numbers. And I think that when you have strength in numbers, if you deal with things in a certain type of way, then you can actually get some good results and you can actually get answers. And let's not take away from the fact that like it's happened and that's bad as it is, that it's even happened. But you know what? We're here now. Let's find out what we can do about it to kind of change something, and let's have a conversation about it. Do you know what I mean? And if we could do that, you could change things by having a conversation. I remember I can't remember what the debate is, but someone kept throwing out, but it's reality. And I'm like, but slavery was reality.
yeah.
If you don't talk about things, if you don't, just because something is reality doesn't necessarily mean it's right. So sometimes you have to talk about things, or you have to act a certain way for something to change, innit? Do you know what I mean? For that reality to change. One of the reasons why I like going on holiday anyway, because you go to different countries and everyone's reality is different.
Yeah.
So what is reality really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Anyway.